ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שהכל נהיה בדברו. We are presently in the 3 weeks between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av. Shiva Asar B'Tammuz is the anniversary of the penetration of the wall around the city of Jerusalem. That's what the Romans did. They were able to penetrate the wall. And then, of course, they continued on, and eventually they burned the Beit HaMikdash. That was on Tisha B'Av, 3 weeks later. So this is a period of pain for the Jewish people, because we remember the destruction that happened thousands of years ago. The first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed in the 6th century before the Common Era, and the second Beit HaMikdash in the 1st century after the Common Era. Why was the first Beit HaMikdash destroyed? The Talmud says because of Avodah Zarah. Strange gods were introduced into the Beit HaMikdash. Some of the wives of King Solomon brought with them priests that belonged to idolatry. Totally different from the only one spiritual God that Judaism was proclaiming to the world. So our rabbis say because the Beit HaMikdash was not clean, wasn't entirely pure, that's why it was destroyed. But one also has to study a little bit of history. You know, King Solomon was a great king, but he also demanded a lot from the people, demanded contributions for the palace, for the kingdom, in order to build the Beit HaMikdash. So that when his son Rehoboam became king, his advisors told him, you have to ease up. Let up a little bit of these taxes because the people can't really carry them. But Rehoboam reacted differently. He said, if my father hit them with whips, I am going to put on metal points to these whips. And the damage will be, the chastisement will be even stronger than before. Well, naturally, the people rebelled. And what happened was the kingdom was divided in two. On the north, we had Israel, and in the south, Judea. And that was the beginning, really, of the downfall. When people are not united, they surely cannot present a united front for enemies that are always lurking in the dark. And unfortunately, the first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Why was the second Beit HaMikdash destroyed? The Talmud says, because of Sinat Chinam, gratuitous hate among the people. There was no harmony. There was jealousy, all negative traits that flourished at that time. But one also has to bear in mind that the kings, the Hasmonean kings, were really not what Judaism wanted all along. Judaism always wanted a separation between priesthood and kingship. That's the way it was in the time of Moses. Moses was the king and his brother Aaron was the Kohen Gadol. There was a separation. But with the Hasmonean kings, the Kohen Gadol, the Kehuna, because they were Kohanim, and kingdom became one and only one. Eventually, this led to corruption. Posts were bought instead of earned. Some Kohanim, the Kohen Gadol, were not really apt to their posts. They were not learned enough. They had bought their position. Eventually, unfortunately, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. There are two prophets that stand out, that admonish the Jewish people, of course, for their behavior. One is Yirmiyahu, and the other one is Yeshayahu. They mince no words in calling the attention of the people as to what they were doing. They were not behaving according to the law of God. They were deviating from the path their ancestors had shown them, on which they had to transit all their lives. We see what Yeshayahu says. But in addition to that, he also says, Tzion b'mishpat tipadeh, v'shavea b'tzedakah. The redemption of Zion, which is Jerusalem, is going to be obtained by law, by the return to justice. And we shouldn't forget that justice is in our part. Yirmiyahu said, Yesh tikva, v'shavu vanim ligvulam. There is hope. The children are going to come back to the borders of the land, Rachem Arachamenu, with great Rachmanut, with great pity, Ne'um Hashem, the word of God is going to come to the Jewish people. So we see that these two prophets, not only did they chastise the Jewish people, call their attention, rebuke them, they also offered hope. They said that eventually the word of God with pity is going to come to the Jewish people. Once again, Zion, Jerusalem, is going to be redeemed. And I think this is a very important message. Right now, Israel is going through very difficult times because of the tunnels that were dug from Gaza into the interior of Israel. And terrorists are able to come in next to some kind of Jewish settlement and do horrors. According to some, they had a plan for Rosh Hashanah to kill hundreds of Jewish settlers, of Jewish people in the West Bank. And of course the missiles, the rockets that are constantly raining upon Israel. Every day, by now over 2,000 rockets, who knows what number really they have already thrown from Gaza to the center, even the north of Israel as well. But I think that the decisive action of Tzahal, with the help of God, we will overcome these things. Right now we are in a period that is very difficult, but there is no doubt that tomorrow will be much brighter, and peace is going to come to Medinat Israel. So let us hope that this happens as soon as possible, and let us hope also that the third Beit HaMikdash, which according to our tradition is going to be a lasting one, an eternal one, will also happen in our days.